Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, February 28th, last day of the month. Oh boy, we're 1/6 into the year. I hope you're 1/6 of the way to achieving or exceeding your sales goals. If not, it's time to get busy. Before I introduce our guest today, please remember that you don't want to wait till the last quarter of the year to say, I'm having a little trouble and need some help. If you need help, get it now because there's still plenty of year left to pull yourself out of it, but you don't want to wait until it's too late. At any rate, I am a sales coach and trainer. I work with individuals and organizations internationally to help them do one thing, increase their sales. And I founded the Sales Pro Network to elevate the profession of sales. And if you've been with us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, we either do a live training or we bring you someone who can add value to the profession of sales. And once again, I've done it for you, my friends. This is not his first time being here. He's the founder of Online Marketing Muscle. He's a business coach, strategist, and speaker. He's the author of the #1 bestseller, The Mind Stretch, a great book if you have not read it. He's also a drummer and a veggie gardener, which I think we're going to have to ask him about. Please welcome my friend and our guest today, Dean Mercado. Good morning, Dean.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. Great to see you, man, and great to be with you again.
It's good to be with you too. And I've got a million questions because in addition to your business as a business coach, you've recently taken an interest in something that's on everybody's mind, which is AI. But before we get to that, could you give everybody maybe the 2-minute version of your background?
Sure. I come out of big corporate America. I spent about a dozen years there and came to that conclusion at one point that my feet were sleeping. I was a born entrepreneur. I just didn't realize it until later in life. So I shifted gears. I've been an entrepreneur formerly an entrepreneur the last 20 plus years. And I haven't looked back since. There's something about creating your own destiny, carving your own path that always appealed to me. So Online Marketing Muscle, my main company, has given me that ability. So yeah, so that's what I do. It's much like what Jeff does in the sales side of things, I do in the marketing side of things. You know. So.
Yep. And you've recently made a big emphasis in the world of AI, which everybody's talked about, artificial intelligence. So why AI and why now?
I think AI has been here a lot longer than we realize. It's just us little people didn't get our hands on it until more recently. So we're watching the world at a blazingly rapid pace, faster than we could ever imagine. We're watching it evolve. The world of business is evolving. Humanity is evolving. It is just what it is. And we could sit here and kick and scream and fight it all we want. But the bottom line is that technology and the tool sets that revolve around it are here to help us. They're here to serve us. And we can say, oh, yeah, I saw the Terminator and they're going to take over life and kill us all. Hey, folks, I can't control that. All I can control is how I use the tools that are around me to better serve my audience, to better serve myself, to create something bigger, better out of my own company and my way of being. So AI, I see it as it is a game changer. Yes, there are certain points in history that I call disruptors in my lifetime. We saw it when the PC came into fruition. We saw it when the internet came into fruition. We saw it when the social media popped in, and several other disruptors over the last 50-something years.
Smartphones.
But this one, I warn you all, this is the biggest disruptor that humanity has seen, maybe in its entirety. You know, it is going to change the face of everything you do and how you approach everything you do. You know, mark my words, 5 years from now, business will look extremely and vastly different than what it looks today. Right? 2 years from now, you'll start realizing that everything and the way you always did things, you're going to be doing them very differently already. So the whole concept of work will shift, right? How we approach it will shift. But I know as a sales guy, Jeff, I know you're always thinking, well, you know, what's the role of the sales guy then? Trust me, folks, if you're a great sales guy and you learn how to embrace the right tools, there will always be a spot for you. Sales, as I tell my kids are 15 and 17 now, it has always been one of the best, if not the best profession that exists. If there's no sales equals no business, period. I don't care what you try and do with your life. You need to sell, right? So I tell my kids all the time, you want to go into a growing field, a field that's going to evolve and pop, in these next several years, it's sales. It is sales, but I'm sorry to tell all of you slacker salespeople out there, it's not going to work well for you, and it's not going to end well for you. You best start talking to people like Jeff and talking to others around you and learning to embrace this stuff to try and make the best of what's to come in business. Does that kind of lend a little bit into where my head's going with this? So my company, we not only adopted it, but we're adapting it into everything we do. Because, hey, as a business owner, my company would not still be here after 20 years if we didn't learn to adopt and adapt technologies. When I first started Online Marketing Muscle, I got laughed at. Dean, we thought you were a smart guy. Why would you start an internet company? This internet thing is just a fad. Why? What's wrong with you? I thought you were a smart guy. You have the college and all of that. And I'm like, trust me, the entrepreneur in me, you got to see where things are going, not where they've been. And those of us that can transcend that and be able to create that bridge for ourselves, for example, you take like Jeff, your decades of experience in and around the sales industry. There's really not much that you haven't seen, touched, tried, you know what I mean? As far as the hardcore skills. Now we equip you, a guy with that kind of intellect, with tools that can take it and exponentially multiply it. Holy cow. What are we talking about here? What is possible? And that's when we talk about AI. This is where I want everyone to start from. It's not too late. It's not too late, right? But you do have to start now, I would say, is my second point. And you have to be walking into everything that you're bumping into at this point with an open mind of, how can I leverage AI? How can I do this better, faster, cheaper? Right? Those of us who will excel are those who are thinking with that mindset. How do I take this, add it to what I already bring to the table, and holy cow, what's possible, right? And that's where we all have to come from. If you truly want to excel, I wouldn't be bringing anybody in a sales role onto my team if they didn't know AI extremely well. Because I want not only their knowledge of sales, but I want an exponential result. I'm not looking to hire 45,000 salespeople. When I know that I can use AI and hire a small few that learn how to leverage tools and technologies. And now it's like, instead of one person that I'm hiring, it's like I'm hiring 100 rock star salespeople who think the way, my company needs them to think, who behaves and does everything the way a great salesperson should. AI is just a technology and a tool. What you do with it is up to you. You want to run away from it? Hey, that's on you. If there's no work for you in 5 years, hey, you created your reality. You're the creator. So I've been out there hitting it over and over and over, out on every place I can get out there to speak on this, because trying to wake people up. It's like, you can't run from this. It's not going away. I realized that when I was dealing with the internet issues back in the day, that internet's a fad. But this is not a fad, folks. It is not. And what you do with it is going to determine what happens to you in your future.
Yep, I want to get into specifics though, and I agree. And I've said this before on this broadcast. I get a lot of questions from salespeople. Jeff, is AI going to put us out of business? Are there going to be any salespeople in 3 years? And my answer is the same as yours. No, I don't think it's going to put us out of business anytime soon. Maybe eventually it'll be so advanced that we don't need salespeople anymore. But I don't think that's happening before I croak. But I do believe that the salespeople that embrace AI are going to vastly outperform those that don't. So you can dig your heels in and hope that it goes away. But I'm with you. I don't think it's going to. So as a sales professional, what are I'd say 3 roles that AI can play for me?
What I use it for and how I use it. And I consider myself a salesperson, right? Because even though I'm a business owner, the most important
You're not going to be a business owner if you're not selling.
That's right. Exactly. I wouldn't be for long. So my primary role is selling. I'm the one out there making things happen. I'm the rainmaker, so to speak. So got a lot of practice in this. So when I work with AI to supplement me, to enhance me. I use it in 3 roles, as you're pointing out, Jeff. And the first one is as a mentor, to help me see what I'm not seeing, to help open up the blind spots, to help me think, to help me strategize, right? So I'm asking it the bigger questions. I'll tell it, I'll assign it a persona. Like if I'm looking for sales advice, I might assign it the persona of being Jeff Goldberg. Hey, act as if you're Jeff Goldberg, a seasoned, decades-long sales strategist and expert who helps companies globally, really get their sales lit up and on fire, right? So I'll tell it that. I'll give it that persona and say, okay, that being said, Jeff, here's what I need. What am I missing? How can I do this better, faster, cheaper? So I put it in a mentorship role. Then once I get the mentoring, then I put it in its second role. Its second role is my assistant. Okay, thanks, the AI version of Jeff. Now, can you just do that for me? Can you just write those call scripts for me? Can you just write those emails for me? Can you create a whole entire email sequence to follow up with my lead gen? Oh, you could do that? Fantastic. Write them. So I use it as my assistant. So first it mentors me, then it assists me. Then the third big role I throw it into is I'll push it a little bit further. I'm always a +1 guy, where I'll be like, okay, now that we've got that, let's say, email sequence written, I want you to serve in the role as my critic. Critique it. Critique this output. How do I make it better? How do I make it so that there's a better chance for this particular persona, this target market of mine, that I'll get a better response rate, better open rate on my emails, a better response to my voicemails that I leave, whatever it is. So I push it a lot more when I ask it to be my critic. So it's
actually critiquing itself. Yes.
Yes, in a way, but it's critiquing itself with my input, because I never just entrust AI and use whatever they give me. I'm feeding it a lot of information. I train it so it thinks like me, acts like me, behaves like me, sounds like me, right? But then I say, take everything I fed you, and now I want you to tap into Jeff's brain, right? Because anybody who has a lot of content on the internet, I could profile you really well, Jeff, because you got a lot of content out there. So I can ask it to climb inside the brain of everything it finds that you've ever produced on the internet, and it will do that. And it will give me tactics and strategies and approaches, and it's freaking brilliant.
Can AI check itself into a mental institution? Because if it gets inside my brain, it might have to. But
yeah,
I get what you're saying, though. I know it's pretty messy in here sometimes.
Exactly. But the one good thing about AI that it does better than humans is it can actually go through vast amounts of data in an instant. So it has the ability to remove the crap and get to the nuggets. So it's like, okay, let's say I want to read your book, Jeff, and let's say your book was already in digital form, right? Or an audio form, let's say you had it as an audio book, even easier. I could feed the audio book into ChatGPT and tell it to summarize it for me. Just give me the 5 main points of the book. Boom. And I got out of that in 3 minutes, more than I would have gotten out of taking all that time reading, a 150-page book. So I'm not telling all of you to stop reading. That's not what I'm saying. Read. You got to keep learning. Remember, when it comes to AI, garbage in, garbage out. You feed it garbage, you're going to get garbage. If you feed it crap, right, it's going to give you horrible scripts to deal with. It's going to give you horrible voicemails to leave. You've got to feed it something. And that's why if I don't have those somethings myself, I'll use a persona of somebody like you, Jeff, or somebody that is a well-known entity on the internet in sales that I feel they get it. This person gets it. So I'll use that. And sometimes I'll use a multitude where I'll say, okay, I want you to put together Jeff and this guy and this guy. 3 of the best people I find out there. I want you to put all 3 of them together. And I want you to imagine that they were sitting in a room brainstorming for a weekend to write me the perfect email script right here for a cold email, right? Give me the best of all worlds. And it will do that. It'll go out, it'll research everything you got, this guy, that guy, and give me the best. Right. So, and then of course, you as the salesperson yourself, you have to sanity check this stuff. Does it fit? Does it sound right? Does it feel good? Right. But bottom line is, there are certain things that AI is going to do better, faster, cheaper than we ever could. Right. And I'm sure as this conversation goes on, we can talk about what it's not going to do that a salesperson is going to bring to the table.
So you're using it as a mentor and an assistant.
Yes. And then my critic. So it's going to mentor me, it's going to assist me, and then I'm going to ask it to be my critic and make it better, because I don't want half-ass result out of the AI. I want the best it can produce, the best, hands down. So that's why I use the critic role and say, okay, this is good, but I think you could do better.
So it seems to me like every day there's 3,000 new AI tools. I mean, it's just astounding. I don't know how anybody keeps up with them, and I'm amazed that people do. How do we know how to choose the right tools for us? You can't use everything, and so, many of them do the exact same things or similar things. So how do we know which ones to use? And if you could only use, say, I don't know, 3 AI tools for sales, what would those be?
Right. Great question. So the first thing
everybody knows ChatGPT, but there's a gazillion of them.
Yeah. The first thing I would say is stepping back for a second. It's easy to allow the outside world to dictate what our reality is. We get so overwhelmed so quickly as everyone says, oh, you're not using Claude yet? Oh, you're not using that one yet? Oh, you're not using it? Yeah. So step back, figure out what problem, what challenge you're looking to solve, and let that help dictate the tool that you're going to use. It's not about using 40 tools or 400 tools or 4,000 tools, because as you know, Jeff, there are thousands coming out, it seems like every day, right? Easy into overwhelm. So I usually go at it from a what do I need solved angle first. So let's say if lead generation is my issue with my company, then I'll choose from a set of tools that really work with lead generation and can help my lead generation process, right? So, and there's numerous tools in that. So I always go after the problem first, and then I try and find the right tool that can help me solve that problem, as opposed to, oh, here's the coolest, slickest tool on the block, I better be using that. My buddy over here is in sales, he's using it, and he says this. Always remember, folks, especially when it comes to salespeople, my opinion, misery loves company, right? Misery loves company. And they'll be telling you, oh, yeah, I'm using this tool over here, and it's the best thing since sliced bread. And are they really using it, and is it really producing for them? Maybe, maybe not, right? Misery loves company. It's like we're all seeking that social value, social valuation, where people say, oh yeah, okay, Dean does it too, so it's got to be right. So yeah, I caution that. So look for the problem first. Now, in the classes, when it comes to AI and sales, the classes of tools, you've got to have your AI-driven CRM. That's the first type of tool you've got to have. One where you can drive your sales pipeline in that tool. Me personally, my pick is Keep, right? Keep used to be known as Infusionsoft back in the day. They've recently merged with a company called Thrive. I've been using it for 15 years. It's been driving my sales for a long time, and the automation of my sales processes for a long time, right? I trust it. I've been there, done it. I've built it out 15 times over, enhancing it and evolving it over time. So a tool like Keep needs to be in everybody's toolbox, whether that's...
How do you spell that, Dean?
K-E-A-P.
K-E-A-P. Okay, I hadn't heard of that one. And that's Infusionsoft used to be...
Yeah. And in full disclosure, I am a certified partner. There's not a lot of us on the planet.
I know you were using Infusionsoft for a million years.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of Keep.
Yeah, I don't partner lightly. Let's put it that way. If they don't got it going on, there's no partnership happening there.
Got it. So an AI CRM, what else?
Yeah. So then I would say you need some sort of a lead gen type tool. I use Apollo. That's one that I've used for a long time now, where I use it to help me gather data. I use it to help me push that data into my CRM so that my CRM could fire off automations that automatically start some of my sales process for me. So using any tool like Apollo, it doesn't have to be Apollo. And these tools like Keep and Apollo, they're starting to add a lot of AI features in them, which allows these tools to do so much more for us than just data scraping.
And Apollo is really a contact database, much like Zoom Info, Lucia, or those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, having
It's
some
great for
sort
lead
of
gen.
tool in that vein, I think is mission critical, and then you've got to have some sort of a generative AI tool, whether that's your ChatGPT, Claude, newest one on the block is Grok, which I love as well. I use all three of those and several more. They all kind of are about the same. They all have their little bit better than the other one in this, but they update themselves so frequently that while Grok might be a little faster today, tomorrow ChatGPT is way faster, and then Claude next week is blowing them both away. So it doesn't matter which one you pick. You pick the one that resonates with you, but you need to have that generative AI tool to help you generate content, right? So if I'm going to do my lead gen, and let's say I'm going to do a cold call campaign, and I do cold call campaigns, I still believe in picking up the phone. I think it's very important, right? Because AI cannot replace a human. Keep that in mind, salespeople, forever. It will not replace that part of you, the essence of you. So I'll use it. I'll use the generative AI tool to help me create that script. If I have a script already, I'll feed it in, right? Or I'll ask it to mentor me, create the best script. What would Jeff Goldberg do in this instance? What would a script he would write? What would that look like? And it'll give it to me. Great. And I would challenge all of you to try that today, and have it create a script. And then you say, I'm going to feed you my script. I want you to take both of these scripts into consideration and create one great script, right? And it'll do that. And I'll say, okay, now put on your critic hat. Now critique them, and tell me what I could do to make this script better and to give me a better chance of getting the response I'm looking for. And I have to tell it what the response I'm looking for is, so it knows, right? So it's going to help me craft that email based on what it is I'm trying to accomplish. So ChatGPT is the most known one on the block at this point. Go there, folks.
It's almost synonymous with the word AI now.
Exactly.
But it's not really the same thing. And am I correct that, if you wanted to do something specific, the three that you mentioned might not be enough? Like if you want AI to create you looking like a Pixar cartoon, there actually is an AI that does that.
Yeah, there's tons of them.
Or one that will mimic your voice. So you've got to find the exact right AI for what you want to do.
And it's like, as a salesperson, I'm constantly doing presentations, so I'll use napkin.ai to do my presentations to help me start the process.
I just got turned on to Gamma, Gamma, which
Gamma. There's so many.
I've been feeding my PowerPoints into that, and it's astounding. You still have to. It doesn't pop out a finished product, but it's astounding how much better it is than I am at creating decks.
Exactly. So I'll use Napkin to create a lot of the imagery. I'll use Canva with their AI abilities to do a lot of my imagery. I'll use Gamma in that way to take my presentations and bring them up a notch. So there's a lot of tools you can use, folks. But I don't anticipate trying to take on 25,000 different tools right now. Look for what your situation is. What's the main problem that you have, and pick the tool that fits and can help you solve that problem in the moment. Once you start getting your feet under you, then it becomes a little bit more comfortable to try on a Gamma. All right, I got a big presentation coming up, so-and-so, here's what I got so far. I need to take this up a notch, help me out here. And it will, but you've got to make sure whenever you use AI, you're not losing your own persona. Because
which is why I always suggest, whatever AI spits out, you still have to look at it. You can't, like you said, write a script like Jeff Goldberg or anybody else. My experience is that when you ask AI to do that, I've used it many times for, create an email campaign, an email cadence of 7 emails over 2.5 weeks and blah, blah, blah. Every email starts out with, hope you're doing fine today. So you still need to look at it. It can't replace you yet, but I want to move on. It's great to have the right tools, but from my understanding, which is this much, and I'm working on it, the key is really being a prompt engineer. You have to know what to sell to AI, because AI is just a machine.
Correct.
And if you don't put like you said, garbage in, garbage out if you're not doing it right. So we really all have to be what are called prompt engineers. We have to know what do we tell AI to do so that it knows what to do for us. And I believe you have like an 8-step master prompt formula so that people get better output from. I am right. Okay. Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that? What's the 8-step formula?
Absolutely. I'm happy to. So bottom line, folks, those of you who are going to remain valuable to companies you may work for, or even if you run your own company, you want to sell more, those of us who know how to ask better questions will get better answers. Those of us who know how to prompt better will get better responses, right? So if I'm a salesperson, I know that I need to ask better questions of my prospects if I want a better shot at closing a deal eventually. Same here. It's no different. So this should come naturally to you to be able to give it what it's going to need so that you get what you need out of it. So that prompt formula goes something like this. The first thing I'll always do is persona. I'll tell it what persona to take on. You know, act as if you're Jeff Goldberg, sales expert extraordinaire, you know, with decades long experience helping these businesses, whatever. I give it the persona. That's the biggest piece because I want it to come from that framework, from that mindset angle. Don't give me generic garbage. I want you to give me stuff that this consultant would say to me, or this coach might share with me, or this expert would do for me, right?
And when you, Dean, when you say persona, you're not just talking about a person, right? I mean, could that also be, I want a happy tone or a funny tone or a serious tone, or is that something different?
That's something different. That comes
never
in
mind,
a little
keep
bit
going,
further.
man.
Yeah. So beyond that, then I have to give it some context on what it is. What's the scenario? You know, so I'll give it some context. Hey, I'm building out this product, this brand new product. And I do this all the time. I'll say, I'm building this product launch. I'm launching this new product for this. It's a new coaching program that does this, and that. You know, here's the URL to the sales page where you can learn a little bit more about it. And you could feed it context before I ask it the third piece, right? The third piece that I'm going to ask it is, okay, or tell it, here's the task I want you to do. So I start out by telling me, here's where I want you to be when you're thinking this through. Here's the context of that how I want you to put your mind in this framework. And then here's the task I want. That's the third one in this formula. So, and the task could be anything that you're asking it to do, right? Okay. Now, remember too, in these 8 steps, you don't need all 8, but you should be conscious that in most cases, you should be at least touching all 8 of these to make sure that you've got a thorough prompt that's going to get you a better response.
What's the 4th one?
4th is an example. I call it the exemplar. You've got to if you can give it an example of what you're looking for. So, Jeff, if you've written a great email series that you're really happy with, and you're asking it to create a new email series for something slightly different, you could feed it as an example of the previous email series and say, hey, I'm looking for something like this. And from that, it can pull your tone. It can pull, your way of structuring sentences. It can pull your cadence, out of that. It can pull a lot. So I give it an example. So sometimes if I'm asking it to write a press release, I'll give it a press release from a top 3, PR firm in New York City and say, hey, write it like this, give it an example and it will learn faster. Remember, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't teach it, don't expect much. It's only going to give you back what the average of the internet content is. So you'll become like the average out there. As salespeople, we can never afford to be average. We've always got to be better than average. So we want to, give it an example. Then I would say 5 is the format. What's the format that you're looking for how do you want it to output this content for you? Right? Or this is going to be an email series. What's the format? You've got to be as specific as you possibly can, right? Then I would say 6. This is where we get into the voice, Jeff. What voice do you want it to speak in, right? So I spend a lot of time training AI, my voice. I feed it things I've written. I feed it things that I've spoken on. So, it's got a lot to pull from because I've trained it. So when I tell it to speak in Dean Mercado's voice, it knows exactly what I mean. And it does it really well. And it can actually capsulize that for me. establish a brand voice statement for me. And it can do that based on your content. So when I do future prompts, I say, hey, use this brand voice, Dean Mercado, and it knows exactly, and it gives me stuff. So when it produces content for me, sometimes it sounds more like me than I do. And it's a little scary sometimes, but it's like, that's ultimately what we're shooting for. So you pick your best of your best content, the stuff that you really think, I really nailed it there. You know what? I was on fire in that speech.
It's almost like AI is coaching you.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. So I go after the voice, right? Then the 7th step, folks, I go after is the timeline. If there's a timeline, a deadline, or anything like that that needs to be worked into my copy, and sometimes I'm doing that because if it's something that I need a prospect to get back to me by a certain time, if there's a drop dead timeline on an offer, I need to make sure that the AI knows that. So it's working that mindset into the overall piece it's creating for me. So if, scarcity is a powerful tool, folks. I think anyone in sales should know that. If you don't, talk to Jeff, you should know that. But that timeline, tell it what it needs to know. And then the 8th and final piece of this that I would go after would be any additional key points that you feel need to be said that may not have been said, throughout the first 7, so whatever that looks like for you, so the key points might be, hey, this email series is from my company, Online Marketing Muscle. Specifically, it's going to come from this guy from my company and Online Marketing Muscle. I can give it those key points. So it doesn't give me generic. I want specifics. So the better my prompting, the better the result I'm going to get out of the AI. Now, on top of all of this, I'll usually end it with a sentence that goes something like this, please ask me if I did not provide any information that you feel would benefit or improve the output that you're going to provide for me. So I'm asking it, did I miss anything? If I did, prompt me for it first so I can give that to you and then go ahead and create my stuff for me. Right?
So I'm teaching AI to ask you for help if it needs it.
That's right. Because I wanted to understand that, hey, I'm in control of this. This is me. I'm not just going to take at face value what you give me. I'm going to take what you give me and I'm going to look to improve it, right? And improve on it. So I add that sentence in at the end. Now, also understand when you use generative AI, it's an iterative process, right? You may or may not get perfect output on that first shot. You may have to go back at it and say, okay, this was all right. Can you tweak this or add this point in there? Or you know what? I missed the tie-in. I could have tied this into this. I missed that. Add this in, rework them, and spit it back out for me, right? So it's an iterative process. Just as if, Jeff, like when you wrote your book, right? And your co-author was what, Steve back in the day? Steve? Yeah. When you wrote that book back in the day, it's an iterative process. Chances are maybe it comes out perfect, maybe it doesn't, but you look at it and you give feedback. Oh, we missed it with this. We really could have. You get the point, right? So yeah, coming at it with any kind of a formula is going to benefit you. I don't care whether you use mine or you use another one that's floating out there. Just use one. So this way you're not missing critical pieces of information that's going to make the content you're producing more impactful. And that's what we're shooting for, because we have that one chance to make that first impression sometimes, and I look at even like second impressions, third impressions. I have to make a great impression every time. Not just, oh, well, Dean's a little off today. No, I don't get that luxury. I'm a small business owner. I lose money. I can't lose money. That's not an option for me, especially when it's us standing in our own way, when it was something silly, stupid that we could have circumnavigated easily.
Dean, I like using LinkedIn to develop business. I want inbound inquiries. I still believe that outbound works in many ways, but I'd rather have people who raise their hand and say, hey, Jeff, I like what you're doing. I want to talk to you about maybe hiring you for X, Y, or Z. In fact, I get a third of my business from inbound inquiries from LinkedIn. And I do that because I'm posting 5 days a week and I'm posting what I consider valuable content. There's almost never an offer. It's not, buy this or do this. It's I'm giving away the information that I sell in the hopes that, kind of like a drug dealer. Here, try this. Oh, you like it? Now you want to buy some.
Yes.
So what are some ways I can use AI to create engaging content?
I mean, when it comes to LinkedIn, and I'm a LinkedIn fan too, we also have to take into consideration that they're constantly evolving their algorithm, and that affects us in many, many, many different ways. One of the first things I would tell everybody, get your profile right. Right. And then when you get your profile right, and remember, you can use that initial Mac method, the three roles, right? The mentor, the assistant, right? And the critic. Use that Mac method and apply it to your profile. Feed your profile into it and get your profile fixed. So
feed your profile into something like ChatGPT,
and let it enhance your profile.
Ask if it can perfect it.
Right. And you tell it what things you want emphasized. So this way it makes sure that your profile is rocking. Then I would put it through a different lens. I would tell it, hey, you're an SEO expert. Now take it from an SEO standpoint. I want to show up at the top of the LinkedIn algorithm for this phrase, this phrase, this phrase, this service, that service, whatever it is. Feed it through. Boom. Get that fixed up. So now at least your home base on LinkedIn is fixed. So now when you produce content, great content that you float out on the timeline, people may come back to your profile to check you out. You want a good shot at, capturing that visitor any way you can. So, I mean, when we talk about content, generative AI is the tool that we go after there, right? So whatever it is you want to be known for, and all of us should want to be known for something, right? And it's not typically going to be like, well, Jeff is a sales consultant overall. So yes, Jeff gets the luxury of talking about every angle of sales. That's his field. But for most of us who are just in sales, we should not be trying to come across like we're a sales guru. We should be talking about whatever it is we're trying to become the expert at. So me, if I'm selling automation services, then yeah, I'm talking all about automation from every angle so that I get known for that. So when it comes to creating your content, make sure that you're siloing your content, to be something specific. When you become the jack of all trades and you're talking about everything, it's just like what Google would do with your website. If your blog on your website's all over the place, Google may not rank you. Same goes with LinkedIn. Same goes with any social media platform. Understand that whatever you put out there, it has a very short lifespan. The timelines go by very quickly on most social media platforms. YouTube, a little different, has longer legs. But LinkedIn, Facebook, all of those, Twitter, bind an instant. So I would use generative AI, and I would go at it and say, okay, I want to be known for this topic. My company sells this. This is what I want to be known for. I want to speak on everything that. So let's say I'm hot on AI right now. AI and automation. Automation was online marketing muscles big thing for many years. AI is a next iteration of that. So automation was kind of like a lead into where AI is going to take it.
So how would you use AI to create an engaging post for that?
Yeah. So I would have it brainstorm with me to figure out what I should be covering. I could ask it, what's trending right now? It has the ability to look out there and see what are the trending hashtags? What's working out there? What seems to be working out there? Let it give me feedback, right? And this is an instance where I might use multiple platforms. I might pose the same question at Grok. I pose the same question at Claude, same one at ChatGPT. And then I might take all of that, put it together and say, okay, assemble this into something I can use. But I want the topic. Give me some conversation starters, right? Around the topic of, let's say, marketing automation, right? And it'll do that. If I don't like those, I say, give me 10. Okay. Gives me 10. You know what? Give me 50. It'll give me 50, right? So, and I'll educate it and tell it, here's the main phrase or the main topic that I want you to cluster around. And I want you to give me all the stuff around it so that I'm covering it from every angle. So that's one of the first things I do is I go topically at it and say, help me figure out what I should be talking about.
Well, let's say you know the topic. I mean, could I just go in and say, create an engaging LinkedIn post on the subject of cold calling to get appointments?
Yes, you certainly can. But here's my angle at it. I wanted to see the bigger picture of what I'm trying to accomplish as opposed to one-offs. And it doesn't see how they tie together. I wanted to see how I'm going to put a campaign together, not a one-off LinkedIn post. So I want to produce these 25 next posts, and it's all going to revolve around that topic. So this way it knows, and it's not like overlapping too much. It's not, feeding off of one another where it's not too redundant, because you'll get a lot of redundancy out of AI. It'll give you the same crap back all the time over and over. So I want to stand out
in your prompt without any redundancy.
You can, but if you're building them all at one time, if you're not building them all at one time, then the problem with that is it has to go back and look at other conversations. Some of the AI does this well, some of it doesn't.
No, that's what I'm saying, though. Can you create 25 LinkedIn posts without being redundant on the subject of whatever, cold calling or whatever it is?
Yes, absolutely. And your specificity works big time, right? You've got to tell it. It's almost like talking to a child in that way, but it's a brilliant child. But that child doesn't know what to do until you tell it what to do. You know what I mean? So yes, that's what I would do, Jeff. I would tell it, don't be redundant. I create content all the time in clusters. That's just the way I tend to work. I also think about repurposing. I don't only write content that I use on LinkedIn. I might start out with a blog post, and then I'll convert that blog post, which has 10 points in it that I make in that blog post, into at least 10 different LinkedIn posts, one for each of the main points. So I could take and start by creating a blog with my AI, right? When I get that where I want it to be, then okay, now convert that into 10 different LinkedIn posts, right? And here's my call to action I want on all of those, right? Or put this call to action on these 5 and this call to action on those 5. Whatever it is, I'm being specific, and I'll get out of it what I put in. Coal in, diamonds out. Coal in, diamonds out.
Yep. Why do you think that so many salespeople seem to be hesitant to adopt AI? And is there anything they can do to overcome this resistance?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, I mean, it's fear. It's always about fear. They're treading into an unknown area. It's technology based. A lot of salespeople tend to be more relationship style people, not technology style people. So there tends to be a little chasm that we get there between the technologist and the relationship guy. Those who learn how to embrace the technology are going to do better. Yes, it's worth educating yourself on. Yes, your relationship skills are going to be paramount going forward. They definitely will. If you don't have the ability to do the technology, bring someone around you who does. Get an assistant who does. They don't have to be a sales expert. They could just be somebody who's great with AI. You bring them around you and you say, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Create that for me and let them do it for you. People do that with my company. I always tell them, you really don't want to be the person creating all of this stuff. Every sales organization should have an AI playbook that has 50 to 100 of their most valuable plays that get copied and pasted into AI to get the result that they're looking for. Create the playbook.
Big time saver.
Yeah, huge. It's just like keeping a swipe file. You know what I mean? Like in the old days, I like that piece of copy. Let me, save a piece of that. So when I do something like that in the future, I got something to model, right? So yeah, they fear it because it's that technology. Now what they could do is, number one, start small. It's about one tool, one problem. Work until you're able to solve one problem with that one tool, right? ChatGPT would probably be the recommended first tool because it's easy. There's a lot of information about it out there. You're not sure how to do it. Go on YouTube. There are 1,000 videos that came out today on using ChatGPT. Solve a simple problem. So one simple problem might be if your organization didn't give you great voicemail scripts to use in the sales process, that might be one I would tackle. I'd come at that right away. So, and I'd work with the AI to keep improving that voicemail script, whether it's voicemail number 1 I left, or voicemail number 2 I left, or voicemail number 5, however many voicemails you plan to leave. I'm not here to tell you whether or not your sales process is right or wrong. I'm here to tell you that whatever you're doing, I would solve that one problem.
So the main thing is get started, right?
Get started with something, solve a problem. When I'm coaching people, it's always about getting a quick win right away. You get a quick win, they're on board.
Yep.
You don't get a quick win, then, I don't know. It's a little cold outside today. I don't want to make another call on anybody today. I don't have a jacket, whatever the excuse we're going to make about knocking on a door, right? So it's like, hey, folks, it's not going away. So embrace that fact first and then realize, okay, it's not going away. Let's be smart then, right? Can I embrace it a little at a time? If I can't, for some crazy reason, then get someone else to do it for you.
So it's okay to take a little bite and then take more bites later on. What are some of the biggest mistakes people are making about AI? What should we avoid?
Well, the first thing I would always suggest, just like anything else, Jeff, is never step into anything without a strategy. What's your AI strategy? What are you planning to use it for? When, how, why, all of that stuff. What's your strategy around AI? Most people just jump in and they just start creating. And that's fun in the beginning, right? When you start seeing, but it ends up being a real time suck. Trust me, I've been there. I've done it. I've had that time suck happen to me. Next thing you know, you're spending 8 hours a day screwing around. It's just like when social media first came out. It was really cool, and then we got sucked into all the stupid conversations that have nothing to do with what I envisioned using social for.
So don't get sucked down the rabbit hole. Are there any other mistakes that people are making?
Yeah. So no strategy. I would say choosing AI tools that don't fit would be another big one, or choosing too many, would be a big one. I would also say, as a sales guy, I'm always interested in data. Data doesn't lie. So when you leave data as an afterthought, that's going to be problematic for you, right? So not really factoring in data. I would say expecting overnight miracles would be another big mistake I see all the time. People expect it all of a sudden. Oh, I'm making 100,000 in sales. All of a sudden, I expect to be making 1.1 by tomorrow. Come on, folks. If you could do it, you would have done it already. AI will help you. It's an enhancer. It's going to make you more of what you already are. It's not going to do it for you completely, right? Putting customers on the back burner, where you're letting AI drive your conversations and you're losing your relationship skills. Ooh, be careful there, folks. Mm-hmm. People hire me when I'm in a selling mode because they connect with me. If I all of a sudden turn them onto a chat bot and it sounds nothing like me and behaves nothing, they're going to be turned off very quickly, right? So forgetting that human element, big one. And we can go on and on and on with that, but there's a lot of mistakes I'm seeing over and over. The biggest are the time suck.
Gotcha.
Time suck. And
what about for people who really are just afraid? Are there any foundational courses like basics of AI that people can dip their feet into the water, dip their toes into the water with, that you recommend?
Well, there are a lot of really good people on YouTube, first off. I mean, my company does workshops as well. Find a reputable company, a reputable voice out there, and listen to what they're talking about, and how they're approaching it. I know, Jeff, you've had other AI guys on here too that I've heard some of what they said, and they seem to have their head screwed on right too. So it is about looking at what programs are out there. Yeah. Start checking out what Online Marketing Muscle is up to. That would be one place. I've always approached things from the standpoint of adding value, right? If something's meant to be, it'll be, but it could start with as simple as, like, I usually will point my own team to a couple of YouTube videos, and you could go out and just ChatGPT 101 or ChatGPT basics and look at the ones that are trending at the top. Watch 2 or 3 of those and you'll at least have some bearing. And then you apply my 8-step formula for prompting, you're already off to the races with just that. Remember, all it is a tool. ChatGPT is a tool that uses a technology called generative AI. That's all it is. Nothing to fear. It's like the first time you used Microsoft Word or Google Docs, or anything like that, or Excel. Yeah, it's scary the first time, but you can't let it scare you. You've got to approach everything from the standpoint of, I have this challenge that I need solved. Who's the best person to help me with this? What's the best tool I can use to help me do this? And when you approach simply like that, the fear starts to go away. And it also goes away with repetition, folks. You've got to do it a couple of times. You got to bite the bullet. Don't worry, no one's going to see what you typed in the ChatGPT. Doesn't matter. You could also do temporary chats in ChatGPT. There's a switch that says temporary, where it's not recording, supposedly, what you're saying to it.
But it's not learning then, is it?
Yes. No, it's not. I would also suggest that don't be afraid of the paid version. For ChatGPT, it's $20 a month. When you're using the free versions, you're subject to them using all of your information to train. The ethics of AI is going to start coming across over these next few years. And another thing I would tell you too, if you're a sales expert and you have a specific methodology that's unique to you, and Jeff, you likely do, make sure you're protecting your intellectual property before you start floating it out there in a big way. Once you feed it into AI, there's a chance that AI is going to use your content to solve someone else's problem. So be cognizant of that. So me personally, I trademark things, I copyright things, just so that I have proof if I ever need to. When all of a sudden a big company comes and tries to strong arm me out of a methodology I created 10 years ago. No, I have proof that I created it. So just be cognizant of that.
All right. I want to ask you about something else. 3 or 4 months ago, you posted something about using interactive quizzes and polls as lead generators. All salespeople want more and better leads. How can we use interactive quizzes and polls to bring in qualified leads?
Yeah, I mean, just think that through. I mean, logically, if we talk LinkedIn, a great poll on LinkedIn could go a long way, in terms of helping you understand which people who responded to that poll think the way your ideal prospect might think, right? So you can use polls to help you figure out where somebody is on the spectrum, in terms of, are they ripe for the picking now, or are they still in the kind of an awareness stage, a junior stage of the buyer's journey? So based on what it is you're trying to accomplish, I'll use it that way, where I'm trying to gauge where they are. I'll also use it in a way of trying to gauge how open they are to the technology I'm bringing forward. Are they open to AI? How often are they using AI? Do they use AI at all? So I'll use quizzes and polls in that way. I'll also use ones like, I just put one on a recent blog of mine recently about what helps them figure out and give themselves a grade on how open they are to something, or whether or not they need help with something. Great sales tactic, right? So you just happen to be the solution that can solve that problem. So if they score below this number, they need to call somebody immediately and get help on that topic. So you can use things like that to just bring it. All it's doing is bringing it to people's attention that there's a problem there for them. And that, as salespeople, we're always looking to create that. As soon as we create that gap, right, we expose the chasm there, then it opens up a doorway for us to step through, right? So I will use them, and clients of mine have used them in that way to try and gauge where their prospects are, or their suspects, as I call them. They're not prospects until they raise their hand in my book, but gauging where those suspects are at and whether they're even open to it. So before I engage, let's say, a LinkedIn in-mail campaign, I might throw a poll out there first. And then I might in-mail people who answered this specific way.
Yeah,
And
that's
hey,
the thing. That's the thing I love about LinkedIn polls. You know exactly who answered what. You know, if you've got 3 different options, it shows you who answered what. So you know
yes,
who's more interested, who's less interested, who's not
right.
interested at all.
So
Yeah,
you put that kind of data into a guy like your hands, that's power. That's power. And that's what I'm talking about, folks. That's where we're using the technology to supplement us, to enhance us, not to replace us.
yeah.
It isn't
You
going to do
also
that.
have 3 proven strategies to maximize our lead generation programs. What are those strategies? And I think that's probably going to take us to the end because amazingly, we're almost out of time.
Yeah, I mean,
And I've got lots more questions.
As far as what those specific, are you referencing something that I might have said in the past or written about in the past?
Yes, sir.
So much has changed, probably since I even wrote that. So even more specific than that, for our audience, why don't you and I put our brains together and come up with what we think might be 3 great ones right now? If we're thinking today with what we just talked about, what would be 3 great strategies around, doing this, right? So, I mean, every strategy is going to be multi-pronged, right? So, I mean, we just talked about polls. So could your strategy be to use a poll, some sort of an ask campaign, right? To be able to segment the responders, right? And then everyone who responds in the first category gets this follow up and follow through, right? Everyone who responds this gets this follow up and follow through, and everyone here gets that follow up and follow through, or none at all. So, I mean, it's really hard to say what the best ones are today. Things are changing fast. I can tell you that much. So I would be looking to tap into things like, I might lead with that poll like I'm talking about, but then what's behind it, right, is my whole process, right? So people who answered in that top tier that I want to go hard at, right, I might plug them into my Apollo immediately and scrape and pull everything I could find about them. I might use other tools, AI tools, to then bring me the data on those clients or those prospects out there or those suspects out there. Tell me everything you could tell me about them and this, and that. I pull all of that in, right? Then I feed that into my CRM. So I now know that, right? And I've already maybe I lit up my sales pipeline already, putting them in as a possibility for someone on my team to chase. Then I use ChatGPT and I'll go ahead and I'll create the scripts I need, both my phone scripts and my email scripts, all the voicemails, everything. I'll create the whole thing around it. So you don't need a lot of strategies anymore. It's about if you come up with one great strategy today that fits in with the tools that are available to you today, I think they'll far exceed some of the ones I might have talked about a year ago, even 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It is going to be a multi-pronged strategy, though, in terms of what you're going to do. I don't know.
We could actually use an AI tool to help us develop that strategy.
That's right. And that's what I do typically. I'll give it the context of what I'm trying to accomplish. Like I did when I'm releasing a new coaching program called Colonial Owner Coaching. It's more of a group enhanced one, but it aims more at AI and it aims more at automation, not necessarily how do I grow my sales? That's not what that group is going to be more toward. That I'm going to say, go talk to Jeff. You need sales? Talk to a guy who knows sales like that. He can help you. It's going to be more towards getting them to embrace and leverage the stuff and use it and be held accountable for it. So I went at the Chat GPTs and the Claude and the Groks, and I said, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm formulating my strategy, and it has to be a realistic strategy within this budget, within this time frame. Don't be giving me things that there's no possible way I can do. I'm not going to go out there and run $400,000 worth of ads tomorrow. Don't have that in the budget. So you've got to feed it the constraints, and then out of that comes something you can actually run with.
So the tools are there. We just need to use them effectively.
Yes.
All right, sir. Well, not amazingly, we're out of time. But before we go, I want to share my screen. And if you would tell people how they can reach you if they're interested in speaking with you or using your services.
Yeah, sure. I mean, two companies. One's the Dean Mercado company. The other one is Online Marketing Muscle. The Dean Mercado company is where I do more of my business coaching. Where I'm helping small businesses level up and scale. Basically, it gets into more than just marketing, gets into a lot, right? And Online Marketing Muscle is my automation agency. We do whatever we do in that agency really revolves around automation, AI, technology, and that so on and so forth. So you could find me everywhere. If you just go to deanmercado.com, it will point you everywhere, right? It'll link to Online Marketing Muscle. You'll find me on LinkedIn. Connect with me. You'll find I'm pretty approachable, just like Jeff. We're approachable guys. Come hang out, talk, join the conversation. It's not going to hurt, so that's what I would suggest.
Perfect, Dean. So they can go to your website and they can find ways to contact you there.
Yes, absolutely.
Dean Mercado, my friend, thank you for sharing your brilliance so generously. And I'll end as I always do. Please remember, guys, that sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there and make sales happen. Have a great weekend, everybody. Have a great weekend, Dean. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Take care now, folks.